To Jeff Keighley and all the media members that didn't vote for this man in the 2017 Game Awards for Best Performance, y'all should be ashamed. Ashamed, I say. Until recently, by which I mean the past decade, maybe two if I'm being generous, voice acting was never a focal point for video games. For the first few decades of this medium's existence, technology constraints made it so voiced characters wouldn't even be something developers could make possible. But when eventually the feature did become more and more prominent, it was executed more as a gimmick than with an intent to bring proper life to the game's characters. Interestingly enough, such a transition wasn't unakin to that of the film industry when they moved from the silent era to talkies. Eventually though, games like Metal Gear Solid showed the world the potential of not just voice acting, but of the power of utilizing cinematic narrative devices within the medium of video games to tell a compelling story, which in turn can make for a more immersive gaming experience. That's not to say we didn't stumble along the way, of course, but as developers matured in their storytelling sensibilities with each passing year, so did their understanding of what good voice acting sounded and felt like. We've come a long way in just a few short decades, and now even give out awards to actors for their performances in games. Rightfully so. Nevertheless, as someone who's classically trained in the craft, spent years in film and theater schools doing endless impressions of different types of dogs and unearthing childhood traumas, and has a passion for analyzing performances, all in an effort to understand what makes one great, I still feel that acting in video games, when compared to film and theater, still has a ways to go. Now, there are exceptions, of course. Troy Baker in The Last of Us and Ashley Johnson in The Last of Us Part 2 are both tremendous. Jeremy Lee, who voices Female V in Cyberpunk 2077, is phenomenal and made me cry, as did Roger Clark in Red Dead Redemption 2. Indie games like Firewatch also have some beautiful performances, and so many of the Japanese VAs in the Yakuza games do spectacular work. But these examples are oftentimes few and far between. They also oftentimes exist as outliers amidst a cast who are otherwise simply passable and toe the video game NPC performance line. That being said, there is one series of games that manages to leave me in awe when it comes to their voice acting. Mafia. My first experience with a Mafia game would be with Mafia II on the Xbox 360. This was around the time when I felt video game voice acting and cinematic storytelling in games in general was taking a leap in quality. I'd already heard the sultry tones of Ezio Auditore Firenze in Assassin's Creed 2 and sobbed while seeing Marcus Phoenix cry out toward Dom in Gears of War 2. Yet from the opening shot that begins with a slow pan up towards a slowly lit apartment whose window shields a hardened man from a rainy night as he narrates the game's first line, "My name is Vito Scaletta," I knew Mafia 2 was going to be something different, something special. I gotta stop the video real quick. I'm so sorry for the interruption, but I have to do the YouTuber thing. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give me a like. Just comment below as well to let me know your thoughts on the Mafia games. And also, if you're interested in basketball content, I've shifted all NBA and basketball content to my Instagram, so you can follow me there. And if you want weekly film and TV recommendations, go check out the TikTok. Your support means the world. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, let's go back to it. At the time, I'd never seen anything like Mafia 2 before. A game whose cutscenes looked like a gangster movie straight out of Scorsese's back pocket, with purposeful shot selection and characters whose performances brought such life and grounded realism. A game that I could show my non-gamer dad and not cringe. A game that I would go on to consider one of my all-time favorites for the years to come. Looking back, though the game doesn't fully hold up when it comes to its gameplay and overall open world design, its performances and cutscenes are still incredibly modern. 6 years later, 2K Games would hand off the development for another Mafia game to Hangar 13, a newly formed subsidiary based in California. Unfortunately, the third game in this series would be released to middling reviews. Though most critics complimented the game's acting and visual presentation, its bland mission design and terrible performance hindered its overall aggregate score. This was a disappointment for many, myself included, as I had been eagerly awaiting a new Mafia game, and once set in such a culturally rich and politically significant time in a fictional city inspired by the Black American South was something I was really looking forward to. But as a broke 20-something-year-old, I had to be led by the Metacritic score and hold my wallet.
You people speak of family like you know what that word means.
Almost a decade since its release, and I'm now finally getting to walk in the heavy boots of Lincoln Clay across the city of New Bordeaux. A couple of dozens of hours in, and I can say that this is one of those examples of how one shouldn't rely on a simple number on a review score to determine a game's worth and what it could mean for them. The inspiration to start playing Mafia 3 after all these years came after recently having completed Mafia the Definitive Edition, a remake of the original Mafia game. I wrote an article for Game Luster about how, though the game falters on a gameplay level, its narrative presentation and voice acting were absolute triumphs and are the elements that will stick with me for years to come. It seems that subpar gameplay but incredible storytelling and vocal performances are trends for the Mafia series, as playing through the third game right now proves to be a similar experience. The reviews weren't wrong. Mafia 3 is repetitive, its gameplay loop becomes stale very quickly, and the lack of certain quality of life mechanics makes for a laborious playing experience. The definitive edition of the game, which is what I purchased, is still also incredibly buggy on the Series S. Yet, none of that has ruined the experience for me, because the story, characters, world, and particularly the vocal performances in Mafia 3 are tremendous.
But nothing you do will bring any of them back.
This isn't about bringing them back, or even exacting some street justice. It's about making that bastard feel what it's like to lose everything. Watch as I take it all away from him.
From the get-go, Alex Hernandez brings this incredible power and gravitas to Lincoln Clay. It helps that his voice is deep enough to make the ground rumble, but Clay's writing and Hernandez's delivery give the character's persona this unflinching resolve, an anger that's never unfettered but rather razor-sharp and fierce. Hernandez's performance demands attention. It demands Clay's voice to be heard every time he walks into a room. His words never waver, nor are they ever minced. He knows what he wants and knows exactly how to get it. This fearless determination is so alluring to watch, and Hernandez delivers Clay's words with passion and ferocity, but also doesn't shy away from being quiet and subtle when the scene calls for it. For as hardened as Hernandez plays Clay, there's always a moment here and there where he brings forth the hurt and pain this character is going through. A slight vocal tremor or a curious pause that reveals the deeper emotions of Clay. It's a brilliantly well-rounded performance, one that deserved more love in the awards circuit as it brought to life one of the most memorable protagonists I've played in a while.
It appears we both full of surprises.
Certainly does.
What can I do for you, Lincoln Clay?
I want you to help me kill Sal Marcano.
I see.
But the brilliant voice acting doesn't stop at Hernandez. The supporting cast more than carry their weight and help bring this vivid world to life. Erica Tazel, who plays the Haitian mob's leader Cassandra, is first seen in the game as this frantic and desperate character, only for us to find out the mysteriously ruthless woman she is. Tazel's velvety vocal performance brings forth this unsettling quality to Cassandra that always has me on edge, and her range from when we first see the character to the reveal of her being the voodoo queen is so well done. Gordon Green, who plays Father James Ballard, is much of the heart of Mafia 3, and his performance brings this beautiful fatherly quality, a tenderness that, when speaking to Clay in particular, softens my view of this protagonist and makes me feel for the man. Then we have Kalila Harris, who voices the rambunctious Roxy in Mafia 3's DLC, Faster Baby. Harris's no-bullshit delivery of Roxy's dialogue makes for such a fun contrast to Clay, and brings to life an overall great piece of additional content. I could go on, from Donovan to Vito's return to the Irishman Burke, but doing so would only be belaboring the same point, which is that Mafia 3, just like the other games within this series, has some of the best voice acting, storyboarding, and overall narrative direction of any video game. A game whose writers and actors understand the world and circumstances their characters are in, and work in tandem to deliver one of the most impeccably realized video game worlds I've ever had the pleasure of existing in. If Hangar 13 did away with the tedious and bloated open world quest design and focused instead on a streamlined linear narrative experience, while also ensuring the game wasn't a buggy mess upon release, then this game could have easily been the best in the series and be considered an all-time great. maybe it's a lesson they can take from Mafia the Old Country. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, again, be sure to hit the subscribe button, give me a like, and comment below and let me know your thoughts on the Mafia games. Once again, I publish all of my basketball content on the Instagram. All my film and TV content go on TikTok. I'm also on Blue Sky. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/pixelswish. All right, that about covers it. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.